The Special Investigating Unit and Transnet are taking Nedbank to court. They allege that some of the accounts linked to state capture have not been closed and some of the implicated people are still transacting through these accounts. Joining us now to help us understand this a bit better is SIU Spokesperson Kaizer Kganyago, who's with us via our video link this morning. Mr. Kganyago, great to have you on the SABC. Thanks as always for making time to speak to us. The story can get quite complex, so I'm hoping we can take a few steps back just to give context, especially for our viewer. At the heart of this, I understand, is what is called interest swap transactions. Can you just break down what that means before we try and unpack what you're asking the courts to do here?
Good morning, Ayanda, and good morning to your viewers. In this particular instance, we are talking about a situation where, you remember when we were talking about the 1064 locomotives. When we were doing the investigation around the 1064 locomotives that were bought in China, we came across a transaction where Transnet was trying to get loan from banks to buy those locomotives. And then in the process, they arranged a deal with Nedbank, and that deal meant that they had to be charged interest. They went on a variable interest, and then within a week, with the help of a Gupta link company called Regimen, Regimen went back and changed that, swapped that transaction of variable interest into a fixed interest, and that made the Transnet to pay just about 2.7 billion rand more than what they were supposed to pay.
Sure. And I suppose, obviously, because now we know that some of those transactions should have not taken place to begin with, part of what you're asking the courts to do now is at the very least to close these accounts, which I understand are still open.
No, the transaction is not going to be closed, but we are saying it has to be set aside. The agreement has to be set aside,
right? And
then we claim the whole amount that the Nedbank would have benefited, because we believe that whatever was done was not done in the good interest of Transnet, and also the fact that it was not done in line with Section 217 of the Constitution. That's what we are contending. But we have got to be very careful to not get into a lot of detail, because this matter is going to be sitting in front of a court, and then they will adjudicate around it.
How much of that 2.7 billion has actually been transacted? In other words, has been money paid from Transnet to Nedbank?
Yeah, this is the interest that we're charged. Let me put it as simple as this, where you say, when Ayanda gets involved with the bank and they charge you interest rate, the interest rate, when it is variable, the interest will go down when the interest rate goes down, and it will go up when the interest rate go up. But then this Regimen and whoever was working with them in Transnet changed that to the highest level of a fixed term interest rate. Therefore, it meant even when the interest rates were going down, the money that the Transnet had to pay was just fixed at a very high rate. Therefore, they have paid this 2.7 above, because they were going to pay the interest anyway. But as far as our calculations are concerned, they have paid 2.7 billion rand more than what they were supposed to have paid. And we are saying that if this is not stopped, this transaction, they will continue to pay, because it was a 15-year deal starting in around 2016 somewhere.
Sure. All right. So this money has already been paid. I suppose the next question then becomes, is the SIU hoping to recoup that money back, that extra that's been paid, as you've explained?
No, definitely. We believe that that money was not supposed to have been paid by Transnet, and therefore this is state money or Transnet money. It has got to be brought back, and that is what we are asking. Therefore, the first thing we are asking is to set aside the contract, and once the contract is set aside, we then want all this money to be paid back so that it can be used for other things at Transnet.
Yeah, of course, getting the money is one thing, but also holding people accountable is another. I mean, are there grounds for any kind of criminal prosecution that could take place here, Mr. Kganyago?
Yeah, those are the issues that are already been dealt with by the Hawks. You know that the Hawks already are investigating this issue of the 1064 locomotives. They are already seized with this matter. We are dealing with the civil side of the story because we are sure that if we leave it to be the way that it is, it will cause Transnet much more than what it is supposed to. And we are reliably told that the interest rate was at a very high rate, and therefore it is important. We've been seized with this matter as far back as 2019, and it is not being handled, and there were instances where there was kind of mediation that happened between Transnet and Nedbank, but ultimately we are now taking it to the courts to make sure that it is adjudicated.
Yeah. What's been Nedbank's response to this? I imagine as a business, they obviously don't want to give back money which they thought they were going to make.
Yeah, I think they will respond. I just read their response in the weekend newspapers, but it is up to them to put in the papers. We have served them the papers on Friday. Therefore, it is up to them to then respond and then give us an indication of what their defense is going to be. I don't want to even purport to speak for them. Like I said earlier on, we've got to be very careful not to say much because these matters should not be ventilated in the public space. They should be ventilated more in the courts.
All right, no, fair enough. I'm also reading articles as we speak of Nedbank having a lot of stake in this particular issue. It seems that if you do get your way, it'll cost them significantly too. But we'll see how the courts decide. Kaizer Kganyago, as always, thanks very much indeed.